Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and welcome to America's Mayor Live from Republika, Srpska. That's a little surprising, right? And right next to me, we go right to the top. Right next to me is the president of Republika Srpska, President Dodik, who, although he's been recently reelected or elected, has been a leading, if not the leading political figure in this country for several decades, and a very, very strong, I have to tell you, after meeting with him, he's a very strong friend of the United States, like so many of his fellow countrymen that are in the United States, particularly in Chicago, but in New York and Los Angeles. There's a very strong Serbian community in the United States, and we appreciate the Serbian community very much. You see in front of me several make great hats. The two in the middle are Trump hats. I think you recognize those. But these two are Make Srpska Great Again, which we really hope happens. And I think with the leadership of this man, that will happen. The day, and we covered this on the earlier show, but I just want this audience to know that the day of President Trump's victory, the building we're in right now, which is the, what do you call this, the presidential?
Yes,
presidential palace.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the presidential palace. The evening of, I call it the saving of the United States, but the evening of Donald Trump's victory. So you can see their affection for him is not hidden. And then we have a number of photos that we were looking at of, I'll show you one, of the crowd celebrating it the next day. And as we pointed out in the earlier show, this country has been severely subdivided, really with a preference for, for a preference that made Islamic extremist terrorism stronger. It makes no sense. This is a country that shares has many of our values. It's, I'm sure there are some differences. There always are. In the United States, we have differences, but basically shares our values. Bosnia-Herzegovina contains a large number of Islamic extremists, including going back to 2001, with several of them that were trained there. They came and killed my citizens and yours in the World Trade Center. Continue to train terrorists and continue to act as a headquarters, a resting place, with a very, very strong Iranian presence from the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is, of course, our mortal enemy. Yet all of our foreign policy, conducted by Clinton and Biden and Obama, has been to favor Bosnia and Herzegovina and to deliberately hurt Serbia. So, Mr. President, now that I've summed it up, was I accurate?
Da.
And
Da, ispravan način, da.
Yes, you are correct. Bosnia and Herzegovina, if you look at the size of the population, is a Christian country. So Croats who are Catholics and we Serbs who are Orthodox Christian constituted the majority. However, because of interventionism, lots of Croats have left the country. They refuse to live under the dominance of the Muslims. It's impossible to live with them for us. So the Muslims are gradually approaching the size as a population that may constitute the majority of the populace in the country. During the war, the Muslim leader Alija Izetbegović led Bosnia-Herzegovina to the Islamic conference. So Bosnia-Herzegovina became a member, and we, Christians, did not like it. At the time, we were the only country with a Christian majority that became the part of the Islamic conference. And there was a false stereotype about Christians here, and Muslims were favored at the time. I've already told you that the current solution, I mean the territorial division, is a result of a fake narrative promulgated by the mainstream media at the time, which portrayed us as bad guys. And even President Obama, or Biden, I think, said at a Congress hearing that Serbs were evil, and it turned out that he actually generated lots of problems that we had, and he lied about us a lot, the same way he lied about other things. So we actually welcomed the victory of President Trump as the day of liberation, because if the narrative that was introduced under Biden continued, all Christians would have been expelled and Bosnia would have turned into a Muslim country.
Well, as has happened in other parts of the world, look at Lebanon. Lebanon had a major Christian population until they let the Palestinians in, and Hezbollah developed, and then they've either exiled or murdered a good portion of the Lebanese Christian population. Christians are under great attack in China, in all parts of Africa, by Muslim extremists. I mean, that's you have to identify the group correctly if you're ever going to defeat them. And what has frustrated me is that it's been a policy of the Democrat Party going back to Clinton through Obama, and then very aggressive under Biden, who pretends to be a very devout Catholic, to favor the Islamic side of it, even where there are countries with substantial Islamic extremists within them. For example, in Bosnia-Herzegovina, probably the most prominent was the two people trained there who came and were part of the murderers that attacked us on September 11. But there have been others. When September 11 happened, if you could go back to that, what was was there a reaction in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
Yes, of course. We actually mourned the victims, pointing out that it was Muslim extremists who did that, but the then administration tried to keep the things under the radar. They did not allow the truth to emerge. So actually, those terrorists were trained here to commit that terrorist act. And the US Embassy in Vienna, our embassy in Vienna gave them passports so they could move freely, and obviously they could go to the US and commit the atrocity. So there is a direct link. And also there were terrorist acts later on in London and also Madrid. Those terrorists came from the territory of Bosnia-Herzegovina Muslims. There were no Serbs or Christians among those terrorists who attacked those cities, only Islamists. But at the time, there was an attempt to portray it as something that was not that relevant. But the facts speak that those atrocities were committed by the citizens of Bosnia-Herzegovina Muslims. They actually participated in the acts against the towers and the Pentagon. You were the mayor at the time, and we actually admired your efforts and what you did for your citizens at the time of those atrocities and the great loss of life. You did a lot, and the towers were actually a symbol of the US, and that's why they actually decided to attack the towers at New York.
Well, that's absolutely true.
So they came up with a fake and false narrative that we allegedly committed genocide in Srebrenica, which is not true, because all authorities that study genocide say that it was not genocide. For example, Mr. Zurov, who's the leading Jewish academic, keeps saying that it was not a genocide, but there was an attempt to portray Serbs as bad guys, and then, that's why the narrative, but it's not true. So, not far from here, there was a camp during the Second World War, and the Croat fascists, together with Germans, killed 700,000 Serbs and 30,000 Jews. So they were murdered in that camp. So it's not possible, to say that we committed a genocide.
Where was that camp?
40 kilometers from here. It's called Jasenovac.
Yes.
And now part of it is in Bosnia and part of it is in Croatia. So it crosses the border. But the truth could never be heard. The communist regime under Tito, who was a Croat, did not allow the truth to come out about the suffering of the Serbs. After Russians, Serbs actually lost most of its population in the Second World War. In the First World War, that was actually caused by Austria and Germany, Serbs lost 70% of the male population.
70%?
So it was from 1914 to 1918. And 36% of the total population was lost. And then 20 years later, there came Hitler and then killed over 1 million Serbs in the Second World War. Muslims from here, from Bosnia and Herzegovina, sided with Hitler, and they were a puppet state. And then Clinton administration came into power and gave them the right to design a state. So that's not fair in historical terms. Serbs wanted to be separated from Muslims in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and that's what we seek today. Bosnia and Herzegovina is an impossible country, an impossible state, for many reasons. Very difficult history, full of suffering. And Serbs are those that mark the difficult days from the history, but Muslims actually celebrate those days. For example, Srebrenica. Clinton visited Srebrenica, I think, twice to support the stereotype. Once I was told, a friend from the US told me that I was battling windmills because 450 Clinton's people built their careers spreading lies about Serbs. And then they asked me, okay, do you think you can change anything about that? So that's why I'm really glad to be given this opportunity to speak. And I'll be really happy if anyone to have this, what I've just described, checked by anyone. So if you want to study the suffering of Serbs throughout history, we can give you the material. And also in Srebrenica, about the genocide, there was a verdict, a decision by the Hague Tribunal saying it was a genocide, but 3,500 of those killed were soldiers. All women and children were safely transported to other territories. Obviously, there were civilian casualties, but Serbs were killed as well. In the vicinity of Srebrenica, there is a village called Kravice.
What's the name?
Kravice. It was populated by the Serbs at the time. Muslims attacked on Christmas Eve. It was Orthodox Christmas, and on Christmas Eve,
January 7th.
Yes.
So the Muslims came from Srebrenica, entered the village, and killed 76 people. that very night. And the Hague Tribunal never condemned it as a crime. It was never prosecuted because that was the time, the era of the Democrats. I find it really difficult to use the word Democrats. No one has ever been held accountable or prosecuted for that atrocity.
This is the same, is this the same tribunal that has indicted Benjamin Netanyahu now? Is it the same tribunal? Yeah.
To je isto priča.
And
Yeah,
ignored
that's
Hamas.
the same.
And
That's
ignored
the
Hamas.
same
And
story.
ignores Hamas.
Hamas je kod njih dobro
No,
organizacija.
I think that Hamas is a charity
Yeah,
organization.
yes, yeah. Well,
That's nonsense that can be digested and devoured only by those who are passionate. Netanyahu actually defends his people. And what would other people actually, other prime ministers do if 400 people burst into their countries, killing 1,000 of civilians? Hamas was in power in Gaza. Actually, they decided to commit terrorism, so they had actually to count on the consequences. So what? Netanyahu should not have or could not have defended his people. So it seems that some see it as a crime if you defend your country, your people. The same story we've had here. Every single president of the Republic of Srpska has been treated the same way. Now I'm awaiting a verdict from the court of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Everyone on the bench is a Muslim. The prosecutor is a Muslim. And here there is this individual who was sent here under Biden's administration saying that he's the authority. So he issued a decree stating that whoever fails to comply with his decision will be punished by imprisonment ranging from 6 months to 5 years. So I lead Serbs who had voted for me for 20 years. So all elections, mind you, were controlled by Americans, by the USAID, and we see what the USAID has done in the US, and you can only imagine what they did here. I mean, if they could do what they did in the US, I mean, the nonsensical things, or, well, that's the nice word. Just imagine what they did here. So I'm being tried because I failed to comply with the decrees of a foreigner who has no authority whatsoever.
What kind of decrees would the Biden appointee, what kind of decrees would he make? Like, what would he say? What would he order you to do? Just so we get a sense. Well, I mean, it's very, very much typical of the Biden administration to completely trash free speech and to act like they're dictators. So, what was he?
Well, one day he got here and said that I had to obey whatever he said. And I told him, well, I had been elected by my people and I had to adhere to the Constitution. And then he invited Mr. Escobar, one of the chaps, and he phoned me saying that I had to obey the rules. They call them the rules, although they change them every day. And then he threatened me, saying that if I failed to obey, they would designate me and my family, and that I would feel the power of the United States. And I said, well, screw off, you and your sanctions. I mean, you cannot threaten me. If you want to talk to me, you need to treat me as an equal. You cannot threaten me. So that was the background, you see. That was the environment. And then they started designated left and right. Me, my associates, my son, my daughter. My daughter has 4 kids. And she used to own a restaurant here. And she rented a restaurant, actually. It was not in her ownership. And the US designated the restaurant ruthlessly. So over 50 employees lost their jobs. And also Murphy is an evilmonger, so he actually was quite arrogant. He thought that he could do anything because he represented the US. He enjoyed full support from Biden, and Biden actually treated Serbs badly. And we were to expect everything. And also, there was another way. They fought us because they knew that we supported Trump, President Trump. Actually, they were quite cynical. They laughed at us. They thought that we were losers, that President Trump stood no chance, that he would be a bad solution for America. Just let me illustrate this. Thanks, Mr. Musk, we heard that the USAID here in Bosnia and Herzegovina spent $402 million over a period of 4 years for different operations. And then we started actually investigating to understand. Well, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bosnia and Herzegovina received officially 150 million. The rest vanished, and they used all the money for political interventions. And we know the media they supported. There is a BN television. Allegedly, they are an opposition television. Every 3 months, they would bring cash and pay them from the U.S. Embassy. And I'm ready to... I'm saying this responsibly.
This is a network that's, when you say opposition to your government, is that what you mean? They were funding a network. They were funding a network that opposed your government.
Yeah,
right?
actually, they bankrolled that television, and a neutral TV station, it's called alternative television, was designated. Imagine that that administration designated a media outlet, and that television employed 150 people simply because this Murphy character did not like them. I mean, he just behaved recklessly.
Well, he behaved...
he actually harmed the U.S. But he did not. That did not affect our love for America. We respect America. We love President Trump, and we respect what America is, and we want to cooperate with others. During this entire time, we also cooperated with Russia and Russians because of our historical and other ties. We thought that we should not impose sanctions onto Russia. And I'm really glad to see that President Trump and President Putin are seeking to establish peace and a balance that would ensure long-lasting peace in this area. Without President Trump, Biden would have definitely led all of us into the Third World War. And I'm saying this because I still have some sort of psychosis caused by Biden rule. I really cannot comprehend that a great American nation made it possible for such a scoundrel to come into power.
I couldn't either.
Because America, does not suffer improvisation of any sort.
Probably there's no one on earth that would agree with you more, since I spent a great deal of my time investigating Biden. I'm pretty much the sole reason that his criminality was revealed, and I'm the person who found and got and publicized his son's computer hard drive, for which I was accused of being a Russian agent for 17 months by Biden personally. In fact, I'm suing. So I'm suing Biden for defamation.
Ja sam još jedan agent.
And even when it was proved 100% false, no one bothered to correct it. So the New York Times, for example, has won Pulitzer Prizes for the Russian collusion story, which has been proven to be completely untrue. Actually, the reason I've been pursued so much is there was Ukrainian collusion. The Ukrainian ambassador endorsed Hillary Clinton for president, and a great deal of the false information that was acquired and Hillary Clinton paid for it was with the help of Ukrainians. So there was no Russian collusion, there was Ukrainian collusion, and we seem to forget that. But in any event, the reality is throughout these Democrat administrations, there's this preference for the people who have attacked us and the people who are organized attacking us. And then there's this very, very serious prejudice against you. Now, tell me your position on, contrast for me the position of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We talked about 9/11. What about on October 7th when Israel was attacked by Hamas? Not even an attack, a terrorist attack to go after women and children. What was your position on that, and what was Bosnia and Herzegovina's?
Ista ideologija stoji za ti napad.
That is the same ideology behind those two attacks, the same approach. Do we need another such event before the people in America understand that the same narrative, Islamic terrorism, not all Muslims are terrorists, but it happens in this day that all terrorists are Muslims. And we can prove that in Bosnia and Herzegovina there are good people, Muslims, whom I respect, whom I know. But it is definitely clear that in these terrorist groups that harass the world, there are no Serbs, no Russians, but there are Mujahedins and members of Islamic State. So, in that respect, that is Islamic ideology, the same one that attacked on 9/11 and the event in Gaza. Those are terrible images which ought to be shown. And trust me, not a single day goes by before this image comes to my mind, and that is how Hamas terrorists surprised a sleeping family, and they killed the father before two sons by cutting off his head with an object that is similar to an agricultural tool, and then they focused on the boys, and then they say is that Netanyahu's fault? Does anyone in the United States really believe that they would not do that if they were given an opportunity again? Also here, maybe for some political Islamic reasons, the story here can repeat. But in the American media, you could not hear stories about this, or you should not compare these events because it was looked at as if you were spreading racial or some other hatred. I'm not spreading such a narrative. I have Muslim friends, but in these days here and Middle East and what happened in the United States, what happened in Madrid and London, all the terrorists were Muslims motivated by Islamic fundamentalism and Islamic State. Should I deal with exact evidence? I mean, you can have a look at it.
Well, I find it very difficult when I saw that in some places, some of the Western media, they'll say that your party has neo-Nazi connections. Now, didn't you receive a letter or a recognition of your support for Israel from Benjamin Netanyahu? I seem to recall that Netanyahu mentioned the fact that you supported them. It would be very strange that a neo-Nazi would support the Jewish people. And of course, during the Second World War, you were slaughtered along with the Jewish people by the Nazis. So I'm not even going to ask you to answer that, but I am going to ask you a more general question. It seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me that neo-Nazi charge is used by the left wing very often, maybe not all the time, maybe sometimes it's correct, but it's overused, and it's used for any right-wing group of people that they want to destroy. The way they charge us in America, Republicans, with being racist. And of course, personally, I've been compared by the Democrats to Hitler when I was mayor, and also, because I'm Italian-American, to Mussolini. Now, my uncles fought against Italy, and my grandfather fought against his home country. Well, he stood against it. His children fought against it. And one of my cousins lost his leg in Italy, fighting against Italy and Germany. But I was compared to Mussolini and to Hitler. So I'm very aware of this. But I look at what's going on in Germany, and election just took place a couple of days ago. 49% of the people voted for what you'd have to regard as a conservative platform, cut out the illegal immigration, reduce spending, get control over the government and make it much, much smaller. But the establishment right-wing party is accusing the new conservative party, and they're using this neo-Nazi thing again, and they're going to ally, they're trying to ally with the socialists, who are pretty close to communists, completely frustrating the will of the people. So in America, we just hear this. All of a sudden they'll say, there's a new right-wing party in, pick a country, Italy. Well, they did it in Italy until Giorgia Meloni came along. All the right-wing parties in Italy were neo-Nazi. Now she's dispelled that by the way she governs. But it seems to be the charge, and unfortunately, this is why we're covering it in America, not enough people dig into it and find out that this is a tactic. This country is the furthest thing from a Nazi country.
Ne, to je ozbiljan. To je ozbiljan proces revizije istorije.
Yes, that is a serious process, revision of history, and one should not be naive. One should just look at the facts.
Djed, znači neposredni predak
Grandfather
koji je bio kancelar Njemačke, je bio
Scholz, who
oficir
was
Gestapo.
chancellor in Germany, was
Koji
Gestapo
je
officer.
za vrijeme Drugog svjetskog rata
In World War
upravljao
II,
Kijevom. Od
ruled, managed Kiev.
predsjednica Europske komisije.
Ms. von der Leyen, who is currently president of European Commission, her ancestors were close associates to Hitler's movement with high positions. They even supported, and there is evidence of financial support to the project, and now they would like to whitewash it from the German nation. That is why Netanyahu said, man who belongs to a people that suffered, now they say he should be designated as a fascist, he should be designated as a bad guy rather than the bad history of Germany, or myself, or you, like you described. I was born in an area, and I described a big concentration camp where 700,000 Serbs were killed over the period of 4 years. So they were killed on daily basis. In my family, the extended family, they killed almost all that they could kill, and very few people survived. That is why my family is not so numerous, and my surname is rare, because many were killed. So it is very humiliating to hear it nowadays. And you have this instinct to fight, and you feel like you should say, hold on, how can you lie so much? But they keep on lying. So it is true, when they dislike a person, they would link it to neo-Nazis, this or that. But listen, AfD in Germany is supported by the Serbs living there. So, can it be that the current American policy and politics is so absent-minded that one of the close associates of Mr. Trump says AfD should be supported?
And actually, the AfD wishes to cooperate with everyone, with the US, with Russia. So they are being labeled as neo-Nazis. Actually, those other people are their offspring, and they keep provoking wars. They want to use the current images to replace the images from the Second World War. Yeah. What about Israel? If they were not Hamas, if it were not for Hamas, there would be no suffering. I mean, it's quite logical that some countries insist on ending Hamas. I myself would fight against such an ideology, but Europe has failed, and Europe has no leader. Tell me, who of them is the leader of Europe today? What about raw materials? No, none. Is it independent? No. Without the huge amounts of money the US has been giving Europe, the EU would have dissolved a long time ago. What about the values? Yeah, they have actually undermined those values with the Ukrainian narrative. Actually, Europe followed Biden, and we know that Biden ran some serious business there, and we know that his son sat on management boards or boards of directors of major companies with major profits. And actually, to prevent, his meddling, they actually started the war in Ukraine. And historically, we know what Ukraine is. It turns out that Americans who in history fought against communism, and we suffered greatly under communism, so Americans of that time were right fighting communism. And now it turns out that Biden's Americans actually are fighting to preserve the communist borders, because Ukraine got into existence within the boundaries as they are now by communists, because communists said, okay, this is Ukraine, these are the new borders. Khrushchev was a Ukrainian, and he also granted and gave as a present certain territories to this Ukraine. And now America seems to be requested to defend the communist legacy.
Well, it's a very frustrating to watch the tremendous Marxist influence that has taken place in my government. That goes back really probably to Woodrow Wilson within the Democratic Party. And it becomes very, very difficult because there's so much propaganda, so much brainwashing. It's very difficult to unravel all of this. And it's been very, very helpful that you've given us this perspective, because I think, some Americans were very surprised when Vice President Vance spoke in Munich, which was the city of appeasement, the city where Chamberlain gave away Europe out of fear rather than strength. So it's good to get a different perspective on this. And this is what we try to do. We try to give our people a different perspective. But I want to close on a lighter note. So I was very surprised by one thing so far. None of the politics surprises me. I mean, I've followed it, I know it, and I know the propaganda they engage in. So that is not so much of a surprise, although your knowledge of it and your eloquence on the subject is a surprise. This country has a basketball league, and you were a basketball player, and your son was a basketball player, and he's involved in the league now. And we met some American basketball players here, and they're very enthusiastic. How did basketball get so popular here?
It's always a matter of love. You see, when I was young, actually, I played basketball, and I really loved basketball. There was a club that we developed, and now it plays in the regional league, which encompasses the former Yugoslavia. And there is a club from Dubai, actually, so they are here as well, a member of the league. And that's a positive thing. So we have Zvezda and Partizan from Belgrade, so they are in the championship league, and Dubai and us. So we are the 4th or 5th in the league, I think. So we'll be playing in a playoff. And in order to make our club successful, we invited some Americans, and they are our key players. So they're here playing with our people. And they are the best.
Are they good? Are they good players, the Americans?
Oni su vodeći igrači.
They are the lead players, actually.
Od njihovog raspoloženja zavisi da li pobjeđuju.
Everything depends on their mood, actually, whether they're in a good mood. If they're in a good mood, then
But
we'll
you know-
definitely win the game.
Could it be the following that I also found out? Bosnian men are, on average, the tallest men in the world. So now I'm looking. I look around and I see a lot of power forwards and centers here that are Bosnian. But you're a tall group. Did you know that? Did you know that when they evaluate all different races and they say Serbian men are among the tallest in the world. Your average height is 6 feet, whereas the average height generally is about 5'9", 9.5. And then, of course, you have a lot of 6'3" and above.
Jednom sam otišao na sastanak sa...
Once I went to meet Ms. Merkel when she was the Chancellor,
ušao u njen kabinet,
and
Well,
when I
that must have been
entered her
pleasant.
office,
That must have been pleasant. Did you get along well with her?
pa ne, nešto.
no,
President
not
Trump-
really.
Ali uglavnom kad sam
But
ušao...
when I entered her office,
Uvijek su me ovako raspoložile razne priče koje je Berlusconi tada pričao.
actually at the time Berlusconi, had all sorts of stories, about Ms. Merkel. But actually I got to meet her. So once I entered her office, and she said, "Oh, well, how tall are you? Is everyone from Bosnia so tall?" And I said, "No, only Serbs in Bosnia are tall." So our key players come from the NBA, and we are very proud. And we have one player who plays in the NBA, whose ancestors come from here, actually. And then at one point of time, they
Srpska?
moved to Vojvodina
From Srpska.
in Serbia.
He comes from Srpska. Yeah.
Yes, they are from here. So at one point of time, they moved to Vojvodina, and now he's the key player in the NBA, Nikola Jokic.
I Dončić.
And even Doncic, his father is from Serbia, and his mother is Slovenian, and he was born in Slovenia, and he played in Slovenia, but he also has some Serbian background. Also Bogdanovic and many
Yes, of
other
course.
players, Divac,
Stojaković.
Stojakovic.
Srbi koji su
All
dali nesaman
of them are Serbs who contributed to the popularity of basketball here and played for the strongest league. I actually would go to the games in the US before Biden designated me and my family. For example, when I visited Washington, I would always go to watch an NBA game. Johnson was the key player there, and many others at Madison Square Garden. Actually, I watched a number of games, so I've never given up on following what's happening
So
with
you've
the
been to
NBA
Madison
League. Los
Square
Angeles
Garden?
was.
Yes. Yes.
Of course, you know that right near the end of the campaign, we had a gigantic rally for President Trump in Madison Square Garden.
Da, pratio sam, da.
Yeah, and he got a
Yes,
tremendous
yes, I
reception
know. He's-
in a Democrat stronghold. Well,
Vidjelo se i na glasanju. Da.
Mr. President, it's been a
Yeah,
great
I
pleasure.
mean, the vote showed how strong it was.
It's been a great pleasure. I really have learned a great deal. But most importantly, I'm able to convey to my people the other side of the story, which they never get, and that's the purpose of what we do. We try to bring you the news that is censored. And I can't think of a situation much worse than this. Maybe there are some, but very, very few. This is the kind of censorship that was, unfortunately, became the norm in the Biden administration, although it goes way, way back. The seeds of it go way back to Clinton and Obama. So thank you, President Dodik. It was a great pleasure, and I think this will be something, real food for thought for many, many Americans, because I'll speak for myself.
Ja.
To me, the future for America largely has a lot to do with Eastern Europe. I'm hoping that Vice President Vance's speech is a wake-up call to Western Europe. But Eastern Europe doesn't have to be awakened. You already are. And I think a lot of our future is going to be tied with you as allies. So thank you very much for having us
Mi
here.
podržavamo Vensa i aplaudirali smo njegovom
Yes,
govoru.
we actually applauded Vice President Vance's speech, and we actually hope that Europeans will understand his speech as a wake-up call. He can only help them. We actually subscribe to President Trump's view, who said that Biden's administration was the worst administration in the American history, and his administration actually made quite a mess here. And let not people forget that. Thank you very much.
The only solace I can give you is this is not the only place where they left a terrible mess. But right now, in my country, we are very, very excited because we're reforming that, we're changing it, and we're moving on to making America greater than it's ever been, like you're going to do with Srpska. Thank you. Well, we'll be back shortly. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live in Banja Luka in Srpska, and here we are with Dr. Maria. Dr. Maria also interviewed President Dodik, and I thought it would be good if we had a little discussion of this very, very fascinating, illuminating interview, which really serves the ultimate purpose of why I started America's Mayor. I started it so that you would get the information that's kept from you, or is distorted, or they lie about, or they censor. Well, of course, you saw that all through the pandemic, and you saw that through the election, and you saw with Russian disinformation, and the hard drive, and the vaccines, and well, the same thing is true as they report information around the world. And we're in the hands of a completely left-wing Democrat State Department, 80% Democrats. Might as well be the Democrat National Convention. And they run it the way you would expect Marxist-trained, left-wing people to run something. So I thought the interview with the president of Republika Srpska was very, very illuminating about what's going on in this part of the world. And I'm just going to take a big 360-degree or 180-degree view, which is, why the heck are we basically favoring a group of people, Bosnia-Herzegovina, where they are now, that sent people to help to train people to come and kill us on September 11th, that has harbored significant number of Islamic terrorists who cheer when September 11 happens, as opposed to a group of people that haven't done that, right? That's a good start, and that cheer when Donald Trump is elected, and who seem to really love America by just walking the streets, and who have a significant number of their citizens who now are Americans, and very good ones, and very loyal ones. We've gone way overboard in screwing them and favoring the Islamics, many of whom I'm sure are fine people, but also have harbored vicious terrorists who have killed us. And we have completely favored them. You look at the map is drawn like a redistricting by a crooked Democrat legislature that gets thrown out by a court. Look what they did to the country. They minimized it as much as they could. No access to the sea. They got a little passageway during the two parts of the country. About 3 people could fit through there.
Yeah, it was quite fascinating. You know, when we were planning to come here, we weren't really sure, if I dare say so, we knew where we were going. We knew of Serbia. You have been in Serbia. There was a little bit of confusion, and then we learned about this little paradise called the Republic of Srpska, with the most wonderful people, and they have a story to tell. A story that's not dissimilar to what a lot of us have felt in America. What you have felt personally.
Wow, I felt like complete empathy.
Empathy. You've been lied about We found out recently that USAID, USAID had monies dedicated, not donated, it was our taxpayer money, dedicated to discrediting you. What? An American citizen? That same group has been alleged to be a front for CIA that has been manipulating elections in other countries where we don't need to be. But one of the
They also put a terrorist through college.
yeah.
They've
More than one, by the way.
They've given
Yeah.
millions, 50 million, 80 million to buy condoms. I mean, governments are supposed to buy condoms.
Yeah. Transgender parades in Ireland.
Massive,
and-
massive
yeah.
support of people questioning their gender and
Yeah.
mutilating themselves. And they existed to give emergency medical help. How is destroying me emergency medical help?
No, it's been totally a front organization for the radical, and I hate to say this about my own government, but there's a radical left-wing fascist government that are elitist. They think what they, one thing about America, right, we love about ourselves, we're free thinkers, and we don't all have to think alike. The one thing that binds us should be values. So it's okay we have 20 different religions out there or whatever it is. It's okay if you have multiple political parties, but we should all be bonded in those values around our Constitution. And we've seen that degraded, especially. I mean, it's been actually going on for decades, but the last 4 years, it was like Constitution be damned.
Yeah, and that is exactly what the president was reflecting in how things have been bad for a long time, going back to Clinton, who, and his ridiculously incompetent left-wing Marxist-dominated secretaries of state.
Yeah, they have a
I
compelling
mean, he had one
story
clown
here.
after another as Secretary of State. Who, also, this reminds me, and when all of these very brilliant, left-wing idiots draw maps, they all turn out to create wars forever.
Yeah,
I mean, look at the Middle East.
yeah.
They drew the map for the Middle East, and we haven't had a day of peace
No.
since they drew the map. I give you 50 examples. This map here is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It has to be drawn by corrupt people
And they're really not
to
independent.
favor one side and not the other.
Yeah. Well, look behind you in this picture. They are Trump loving. Why? I tried to pull from the people. They love that he is for the working person. He's for liberty. And that's exactly in my interview with President Dodik and other people. I had a great, great interview with Ranko Ristic, who's an American, but born in the Republic of Srpska, has a passion for this area. And he helped my audience really understand this region
It's so important.
and what happened. Yeah.
It's so important that they get the other side of the story, because about this area, oh gosh, there's about 3 decades of seriously skewed information.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
they give it I mean, they end up with what I guess Donald Trump called fake news.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. It's very serious because it involves war and peace. It involves our future. It involves our solidarity and standing up against China eventually. This is a part of the world, Eastern Europe, where we can pick up a lot of allies.
I was thinking the same thing, Rudy. We're talking a lot about potentially if the people of Greenland want it, of course, we're never going to force it, if they want it to be part of the United States.
And by the way, the polls that have been taken, the independent polls that have been taken, unlike the King of Denmark and the Prime Minister of Denmark, the people seem to want to join the United States.
We already have, they're used to
Why?
Americans.
They're going to be a lot richer. The poor people there are basically native people, Inuits. They're very poor. Of course they want to join the United States. They're not stupid. But the elite who govern them, like this Merz who got elected in Germany, believe they can tell the people what they're allowed to believe and not.
Yeah.
So
Biden did that
they
to
give
us.
20% of the vote to a party. I will have nothing to do with that party. Where does he get a right to say that if it's a democracy? Now, if it's really an oligarchy or whatever the hell Germany has become, yeah, you can do that. But don't tell me you're a democracy. And that's exactly the point Vance was making when he said, you know, we're no longer just going to support you. We're going to support you if you share our values. And
It's about
here,
values,
here you
yeah.
point the finger at everyone and you accuse all your opponents of being neo-Nazis. Well, I don't know if they are or they aren't. Maybe they got a few people like that in it. Maybe they don't. But you're the one that has Nazi-like principles. Like, you can't be part of the government. And if you, in England, they prosecuted a guy for thinking the wrong things.
Poor England. What has
Thinking the
you
wrong
know,
things.
Nostradamus has predicted a big downfall of England, and we're seeing it. When you can't even
Berkshire.
there's no such thing as free speech. They've rejected free speech, and it's really terrible because I actually like England, even though we broke free from them. But we were talking about allies. So Greenland, they're used to us Americans because we have a beautiful military base there. Canada, I think that's just a joke that we would take them on, but
Take them over.
take them over.
Make them a 51st state.
Yeah, wouldn't that be lovely?
Maybe
Because
it's Serbia.
strategy-wise, in national security, it'd be great.
Or maybe Republika Srpska.
But
could be
how
51st.
little allies do we have left? We thought we had most European countries, and they turned their back on us because they believe in this Marxist ideology. So why don't we start having strategic alliances in the Balkan? Right?
Well, we should.
You can never
I
have
mean-
enough friends.
I think that everything is going to change now that Macron has said that if America pulls out of Germany, he's going to come in with France. Now that's really going to frighten Russia. I mean, Putin is sitting there thinking, "Oh my God, I don't want Sissy Macron to come in. Oh wow, oh wait a second, what is it? 200 years now? The French just say when a war starts, we surrender. How ridiculous is it? Macron is going to replace our nuclear fleet with his, and they basically fire in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Long past are the days when they came to our rescue, France, in our Revolutionary War.
Oh
at
God,
the
we
11th
paid
hour.
we paid
Yeah.
50 to 1 for that in World War I, and then of course just Normandy alone we paid our price to them and more. What the problem is, as you know, when we were in Normandy, they don't respect us.
Well, Normandy, I felt.
Well, not the people in Normandy do,
Yeah.
but the group
Paris,
the
forget
group that
about
came
it.
in from Paris. I was there day after July 4th. Cried at the cemetery for the third time, and then we went to have lunch. And I decided at lunch, or maybe it was July 4th, I put on the American national anthem and the French national anthem, and a couple of others, England and the Allies in World War II. And this table, the waiter came over to me and said, the table over here of these people, they're all French people from Paris, the music is too loud. I said, you got to be kidding me. This is the American national anthem, the French national anthem.
You
It's
were
too
playing
loud.
all three on
Well,
your
you
iPad.
tell them, get up
Yeah.
and go somewhere then, because I'm
Yeah.
not putting it down. So I said, okay, I'll take care of it. I made it louder. And they got up and they walked into the, oh my God. But here they are with hundreds of bodies within walking distance of young men who came from all over America, who ended their life there 18 years old or 19 years old. And as Colin Powell so eloquently said, all they asked for was not territory, not wealth, not gold. All they asked was a place to be buried because they had given their life to defend freedom. Now,
Yeah.
what country's ever done that?
Yeah.
None but the United States.
Oh my God, we've
So we're
liberated
entitled-
more nations.
We're entitled to demand respect.
Absolutely.
Not ask for it, not beg for it, not ignore it when we're not given it, but demand it. And we get respect here. I can see it.
Yeah.
And you know what happens in France. I know what happens in France. When you get out of Paris, not so bad, but boy, they don't respect us. And it looks like that's happening in other places. And this guy Merz is trying to move Germany in another direction. So good luck. Your people are going to revolt on you like they revolted on Biden. And you're going down a Marxist rabbit hole. And take Vice President Vance's advice. It was a brilliant speech. He gave it in the city that probably more than any other demonstrates appeasement and what it gets you, Munich. That was on purpose, to wake you up. So wake up, because we're not going to wait for you. America has an awful lot of potential and allies in Eastern Europe, and they're going to be stronger and stronger and stronger. And it would be nice to have you. We love you. We would love to have you. But if we don't, I don't know, the allies here in Japan and Taiwan and North Korea, that's pretty powerful, even when you consider how big China is. So let's take a break, and we'll be right back. This is America's Mayor Live, right after our very, very interesting and I think important interview with President Dodik of Republika Srpska. And I want you to look over here, and Dr. Maria has him on her show also with a very, very good interview. When will that be aired, Doctor?
My show comes out on Wednesday, 9 p.m. Remember, the Dr. Maria show has moved to prime time, 9 p.m. You know why? Because you're sick of Hannity. You had enough of Sean Hannity, and you wanted Dr. Maria.
Well, he says the same thing all the time. You say different things.
Yeah, I say different things. And yeah, so when we look at the map of the
Republic
of Srpska, it was on purpose. So see those lines there? That's called a district. That district was put there on purpose so the Serbian people would not have a continuous landmass.
And they have no access to the sea.
And they have no access
Look at
to
that.
the sea down there.
Look how easy it would have been to give them access to the sea.
Yeah.
Look at that, right down there at the bottom of the map.
Yeah. I still, Rudy.
And then look at what other thing.
Yep.
Look at the separation there of the two parts of Srpska. Separate the country to make it weak. Don't give it access to the sea. Give the country that, I'm not going to say the country's a terrorist country, Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'm sure there were even President Dodik coming, a lot of wonderful people there.
Of course.
But they do harbor terrorists.
Yeah, the Mujahideen, they don't call it that anymore, but it was a breeding ground in that area. And unfortunately, United States funded some of that.
And I have a little sensitivity to the fact that two of them came and bombed the World Trade Center.
Of course.
From there.
Yeah, from that area.
So now why would my sympathy be with them? I don't have to hurt them, but why would I go out of my way to give them access to the sea? To divide Srpska in half, to divide Serbia in three, and to, over the last 20 years, favor them. Boy, they got plenty of, somebody's got to look at the USAID money they got.
Yeah. About $3 billion, I think.
And so when you look at that map, if I looked at that map and you told me, just look at that map, that looks to me like that was drawn by a crooked Democrat politician in Chicago or New York.
Hunter Biden drew it with his little pen when he does his painting, his crack pen.
Yeah, it looks like a redistricting of a state legislature or Congress,
Yeah.
so that you can cheat and elect as many Democrats as possible. We just did that in New York, and they actually moved the whole court around so they could get crooked judges to approve it. But in any event, that's absurd to divide them in half. But with it, this country's got a wonderful spirit. They haven't broken their spirit.
No, not at all. And they have this fierce desire for independence and liberty. We know that more than any other people. We fought. Our 13 original colonies said, we're not going to be ruled. We're not going to be taxed without representation. And now this story, and I still am having a hard time with this, that it was just picked, a person from Germany, to kind of tell them what they can do in Srpska. I don't even understand that. It's against their own constitution, but this person has power.
Well, that's fashion.
Yeah.
It's like Mertz. The people give 20% to vote to a particular party, only 28% to his party. He's just got 8% more.
Yeah.
And he says, they can't be part of the government. Well, this is a democracy, pal. You want to, and as President Vance said, Vice President Vance said, reflecting
Maybe
what President
he'll be
Trump
president
believes.
one day.
Well, I was sure impressed with his speech in Munich. As he said, we defend you and we help to fund you and we try to save you because we share together love of democracy and freedom. We don't do it if you're going to be a dictator. We don't do it if you're going to promulgate fascist or communist values. So listen to that. Wake up, England. Wake up, France. Wake up, Germany. Italy has awakened. And we're going to maybe show that tomorrow night.
Yes, we're going to be back in Italy and talking with the Prime Minister there. And yeah, she's had a problem with illegal aliens coming up from Tunisia, Libya. So they know what it's like. And those people, yeah, I of course, I love Italy. I never wanted them to be part of the European Union, but that's my own personal belief. But Rudy, let's talk about something a little different.
Yeah.
We got to visit a beautiful, beautiful church of Christ the Savior. It's an Orthodox church. It reminds me of traditional Greek Orthodox churches. Absolutely stunning. Just a beautiful, beautiful church. We got to go in and pray.
Yeah. It performs the
daily mass.
It performs the
in Latin.
The thing that a church is supposed to do. It's supposed to bring you closer to God.
Yeah.
And when you're there and you look up and you see it, and
Yes.
you feel like
Stunning.
I don't know. You feel like maybe you're coming into heaven or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever get there, but you will.
Well, that's why we're in Italy for the Jubilee, so we can go through the double doors and all of our sins just magically go away. Isn't that great?
Wow, I need that one. Because otherwise I'd have to go to confession. That could take weeks. But
You know, our work takes us to many different countries, and I'm always amazed. You're absolutely world famous, not just famous within the United States. And you're revered for your honesty and your integrity. And while we were out and about today, we went to a really sad memorial for the 13 baby children who
maybe
died.
at the end, Stephen, we can put in, Stephen? Maybe we could put in a little clip of our going to the church and our going to the memorial for the 13 children, where they wouldn't allow during the wartime situation, they wouldn't allow airplanes to fly in to give life-sustaining, I think it was oxygen,
It's
for
oxygen.
13 children. And the Security Council of the Useless United Nations, or Useless Nations, is what
Yes,
should be,
that's what we call it.
UN.
Yep.
As the mayor of New York, I'm an expert on the fact that the place is a loser. It costs New York City a lot more money than New York City makes on it. And a lot of crime,
A lot of perverts.
and a lot of landlords cheated, restaurants cheated, and every week crimes would come out of the UN. You wouldn't believe it. You would not believe the amount of crimes that the people who work at the UN
Yeah.
commit. I mean, and remember, half those countries are crooked countries, completely crooked, including Ukraine.
And they're becoming more and more radicalized. But anyways, I was going to say, let me finish my thought. So we were out and about doing this, and a woman who couldn't speak any English sees you, waited, talked to you in Serbian language, and somebody translated, and she just said she loves you, she prays for you, she hugged you. It was
That's my chance.
quite beautiful.
If God will listen to
People
her.
know, even though the Biden administration, because you exposed how corrupt the whole family was, you wrote a book about it, The Biden Crime Family. You can get it on Amazon. Little plug. They went after you hard. First, they tried to ruin your credibility with fake stories. Remember, U.S. aid gave Politico $8 million to do their bidding. And that was once considered a semi-respectable magazine, but not any longer. And that wasn't the only one. But people know that you're a good man, you're a strong man, you stick up for those that are oppressed, you're well known for that. And as people here remember you for 9/11, many countries remember post 9/11 when you went to their countries and you helped them with safety and security. You did
Well,
that.
that's very nice, Doctor.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, with the few minutes left that we have,
Yes, and I'm totally.
what's your major impression now of our visit?
I'm so glad we came here. You know, whenever a nation and its people, because, right, a leader can tell you anything, that could be propaganda, could be, you know, you have to keep an open mind. But when you talk to the people out and about, and they're all saying the same thing, it does speak to me. That need for independence and freedom of liberty, and not, especially as a Christian Catholic myself, I never want people to fear that they're going to be executed because of their belief in God.
Well, you have to understand that in this part of the world and other parts of the world, people are killed because they're Christian. And
It's a fact.
it does not get the attention that it would get if there wasn't such a hatred of Christianity among the elite and the cognoscenti. And in Africa, it's horrible. In China, it's horrible. And at various times, it's been horrible in this part of the world. So when you see a church like this, and we're going to show you, as we close, we'll show you
It's beautiful.
some video,
Stunning.
some
Yeah,
video
really
of
stunning.
that. Remember that these are people that look at the world very much the way we do. It's a wonderful opportunity for America to develop even stronger allies in Eastern Europe. And we might find that they're a heck of a lot stronger than some of the weaklings in the other part of Europe. Not all of it. We've got a couple that are coming around, Italy, for example. Germany, when you look at that vote, I mean, the fascists are trying to squelch it. If you look at that vote, it's moving in the right direction,
And I hope the people of Ireland stand up too. They're being overrun.
by left wing.
Yeah.
Well, never thought it would
Lunatics,
happen in Ireland.
Yeah,
But it could happen anywhere like
exactly.
that.
Well, thank you for asking for my opinion.
Well, thank you, Doctor, and very much want to thank the President of this
President
country.
Dodik, very
President
gracious.
Dodik and his,
Yes.
and his staff. They've been absolutely forthcoming, absolutely open, willing to answer any questions, and have been enormously welcoming.
Yes, very
Like,
much.
and very much want to be friends with the United States. They have a respect and a love for us that if you are a patriotic American, as we both are, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You can feel it, and it's wonderful to think that that's still the case when you go into some of these Western European countries, and they, after all we've done for them, they have total disrespect for us. So thank God that this place exists, and thank God they've got the courage to carry it on after a tremendous amount of obstacles put in their place. And I really do think this is going to be the place where our alliances really, really grow. So I'm glad we've been here.
Yep.
We can watch it. Doctor, great job.
Great job.
Thank you
We'll
again
see you.
to the President of the Republika Srpska, and of course,
It only took us 4 days to say it correctly.
and of course, well, actually we're going to say, make Srpska safe again, because I have a great hat, you saw it on the earlier show. And of course, God bless America! And cut!